This is so exciting. Thanks, Mary, for inviting us for what we're calling the CAP Awards Spotlight Series. We've had the CAP Awards, I believe, for 3 years. God, I really lose track of years, you guys. But this is our first time to get all of our finalists together for each category and just have a roundtable discussion with everyone so that people can benefit from, oh my gosh, some of these, what was in that application, first of all. I think that's what a lot of people want to know at the end of an award program, but also what are people doing in relationship to that category that I should know about? This one is a neat one. And we brought it up to the front of the pile because lifecycle advocacy is a bit newer term that we've been using over at Captivate Collective. It can mean a lot of different things to different people, which we're going to get into here in a minute. But also it was a nice time because Dean and I are in Boston next week at Customer XCon. Is anyone else going? You could just put it in the chat if you are. I'd love to say hello. But yes, Dina is. I think Emily is. I think you're coming, Emily. I saw you on something. But yeah, go ahead, Emily. You can talk. You really can talk.
Sorry. I was like, maybe that was not an invitation. Yes, I am. I'm doing I think a Q&A session with user evidence. That's what I'm speaking, but I'm really excited to see sessions too.
Nice. Well, yes, we have a workshop before Customer XCon all on lifecycle advocacy, and we have a panel with a couple of customers on lifecycle advocacy. So we think this is going to be a great discussion to kind of get us really in the lifecycle advocacy mindset here. In this pretty new award category. We had it last year and we had it this year, and we're so excited to see some great applications come in this year. So without further ado, I will introduce our guests. So we have 3 finalists from this category. We have Nicole Dingley here from Ad Astra. Of course, we've known Nicole for a long time, though. Hi, Nicole. It's so nice to see you.
Hi, you too.
Nicole has a lot of background in this space, and you've been in customer success, you've been in marketing, but you're a vice president of marketing right now, and she's a top 100 CMA. But I remember just talking to Nicole at various events back in the day and just being like, this lady, she has so much wisdom and she gets it. And I just love talking with her. So congratulations, Nicole, who actually at Astra was our winners. Congratulations to you. I am going to let you say hello real quick before I move on to each person.
Hey guys, great to be here. Nicole from Ad Astra.
Anything you want them to know about you, Nicole?
I live in Kansas City, Missouri, and I've been in this space. Like I've started my career in sales, and then I was in marketing, customer success, and then back to marketing for the last 5 years. And just love clients, love working with them, and yeah, it's exciting to be here.
Can I add something about Nicole?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, Nicole, like having known you for a long time now in this space, just for everyone else, Nicole is like a real like sharer of knowledge. She doesn't covet her successes and success stories and like how to do things. So if you're not following Nicole on LinkedIn, then please do. Nicole, you're a lovely person with great energy, and you always have been. You're like the exact same person that I met all of those years ago today. So it's wonderful to have you here as a CAP Award winner over with your team at Ad Astra.
Well, thanks to both of you for all you're still doing and you continue to do in this space as I nurture new people in these roles. You know, most people that come to you that work for you in customer advocacy, it's not new to them, right? And I continue to use you all as like a beacon of here's how it's done right. So thanks.
Thanks. Right. We also have Brittany Pais here. Am I saying your last name correctly, Brittany?
You are. I have all the difficult names, don't I?
Oh, no, you don't. You don't. I'm just nervous now because Litho was a finalist in this. We're so excited to have you, Brittany. Brittany is the Vice President of Customer Experience at Litho, which I love this title because I love how you guys have different titles of where you're coming from, because lifecycle advocacy is a little bit like that, right? And you lead exceptional, you call it an exceptional post-sales team to deliver outcome-focused, value-enriched experiences for your customers. Brittany, tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, Todd, by the way, you are not alone. So people, I married into this name. It's Lithuanian in origin. And so everybody gets it wrong, and I just blame my husband for it. So this is a safe space. I'm excited to be here and chat with all of you. I may have even met some of you at Customer X Con last year. That was my first conference in the customer marketing space. And I love the blend, right, of where customer success and customer marketing can come together. I have found it to be just incredibly impactful and effective for me as a retention strategy for our customers, being able to layer in social proof to help with every stage of the customer journey, being able to bring in advocacy as a risk mitigation tactic, being able to really tie those ideas of advocacy and retention as some of the strongest data points that I have when I'm predicting and forecasting the retention and churn of what I'm asked to do to my CEO and to my leadership. And so I have seen firsthand the power of advocacy in the customer lifecycle, and I'm just honored to be a part of this conversation and bring that customer success, customer experience point of view to the table.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that, Brittany. Really appreciate that. Okay, last but not least, we do have Brooke here with us. Brooke, we're so excited to have you here. A little bit about Brooke. She is a self-starter with passion for lifecycle marketing programs. And so that's, when we start talking about this, we'll get into this lifecycle marketing, advocacy lifecycle. But I think we are going to see some of these words that are really important: data-driven analysis, customer experience and expectations, relationship building. So all of those elements coming together here in that piece as well. She is representing AlphaSense, who was one of our finalists as well. Brooke, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I am kind of sitting in place of Jenna Feldman on our team, who is our customer advocacy manager. But I'm excited just to be here to represent AlphaSense. We were happy to be a finalist and be involved in this award submission process. But my role, I have been at AlphaSense now for about 1.5 years. I'm the senior customer lifecycle marketing manager. So I oversee all kind of digital touch points as we think about the programs that we are putting out in front of our customers, as we think about all of the various stages of the life cycle, and ensuring that they have an ultimate customer experience, but also working cross-functionally just to ensure that we're all aligned on all the different touch points and milestones that our customers are going through, to ensure that we're optimizing every communication, as well as thinking about the digital versus human touches that are involved to ensure a great experience. So I've been in the tech space for about 10 years in various roles across marketing. So in the latter half of my career, being more into customer marketing. So it's always fun and enjoyable to hear everybody's backgrounds, because people have bounced around and have been in various roles to lead to where we are in customer marketing. So I think that makes us all unique into who we are, as to being and seeing all parts of the business, and knowing the impact that it has on our customers. So excited to be here and talk advocacy and all things lifecycle.
Woohoo, let's do it.
Yes, let's do it. And please pass our hellos along to Jenna and Brittany. Wonderful. You've got wonderful.
On their way to customer
over there.
Con.
Oh, they're on their way. Yes. Right on.
Making the most of the weekend, we see.
Yeah.
Okay, so
smart.
I think if you've been in customer marketing, you've already probably had experiences or questions where you're like, oh, is that customer success that I'm touching? Is that customer experience that I'm doing? Is this advocacy? There's just a lot of crossover by the nature of our job. We're very strong collaborators, and we assist and support a lot of the other divisions inside the organization. I think with lifecycle advocacy, it starts to become like completely gray. What are we talking about? Who owns these different parts of the journey, these touch points, these opportune moments, et cetera? And I think that's why when one of the questions we asked on the application was, how do you define life cycle advocacy? We got very different answers across the board. It means something different to everybody. I actually want to start with Captivate and how we think about it, but then I'm going to go to each of our finalists here. So, Dina, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, you are?
And I'm going to ask you how you think of life cycle advocacy. That will give you the frame of reference for how we were thinking about it. And then we're going to talk to each of you in turn and get your 2 cents in a discussion format here.
Okay, all right, here is my definition, and I'm not even going to pretend like I'm not reading because I'm actually working on our workshop deck. So I have it right here, so lucky me. Okay, so at Captivate, as defined by Captivate, life cycle advocacy is the practice of embedding and operationalizing customer advocacy into all key stages of the journey. And this means that life cycle advocacy happens when opportune moments designed to enhance the customer experience and cultivate what we call like in the moment advocacy are mapped into that journey. So we focus on, in our definition, customer advocacy motions. So what are those touch points, those little kind of, like you could almost think of them as micro campaigns. That's how we think about life cycle advocacy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Nicole, I don't know if you have yours in front of you by any chance. Nicole, so that's kind of the approach that we're taking about it. It's really that orchestration approach of, hey, let's look at the journey. Where does advocacy and the customer journey align? Where should we be using, to your point, Brittany, where should we be using advocacy? Also, where should we be nurturing and activating advocacy during that journey? Nicole, you had a really broad, really big vision for life cycle advocacy. I don't know if you remember any of that.
I do. I pulled up some of my notes. And I love what you just said. I think it's spot on. I mean, that's really like the tactical, like how we do it. I think when I answered that question, I was thinking about what is the customer lifecycle mindset, like lifecycle advocacy mindset. And in my mind, I came to the idea, just hit me that it's really lifecycle advocacy is a power sharing model that recognizes a company has to meet customers where they are and let go of the idea that customers are willing to conform to a standard template of exchanges. So just to get away from that transactional approach. And then I added, like, rather the practice of life cycle advocacy honors customers by acknowledging that their experience and goals are ever evolving, and they demand bespoke interactions that satisfy their various desires, whether it be for knowledge or rewards or whatever it might be, training. And then I also just added that I think it's a continuous and symbiotic process of mutual omni-channel value sharing. And that it should definitely across the journey be orchestrated so that there's a give take. There are, just ongoing points across the journey that really result in customer-led growth overall. But
yeah, that's fantastic.
That's my mindset. But I really like what you said too, just about how they need to be baked in, and we do that. But I really like how you said that. That's really, really clever. Not clever, just right on. It's yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
So Nicole might remember, but Dina and I did a workshop, I don't know, this was years ago, and we kind of did a visual picture of how with advocacy programs, there's the advocacy journey and it kind of lives over here. And then there's the customer journey and it lives over here. And they may not intersect or cross over. So for example, you could have a member in one of your advocacy programs and they're top dog, they're doing absolutely everything over here. On the account management side, they might be a blip on their radar, honestly, because they're not a large account. Maybe they're not up for renewal, et cetera. So it's like they're having one experience over here and they're having a different experience over here. Or we're really clapping and praising everyone who finishes a story with us. When someone gets to renewal, crickets, like thanks for signing the contract, and we just move on when they've done the ultimate act of advocacy, which is continue their relationship with us. And so I think at the heart of lifecycle advocacy, we are trying to bring together, like Nicole said, that symbiotic experience. Yes, there'll still be programs, but the day-to-day, the organic nature of how they're experiencing our organization should be in tune with what their customer journey already entails. So Brittany or Brooke, what do you think of that? And is that in line with some of your thinking around lifecycle?
Yeah, I would say to me, they're not really separate journeys at all. And so I think that's a really interesting concept to even plot them separately. Litho, we have our icon of the infinity line, but I also think of the customer journey like that. It's not linear and it's not circular. It really is customers are going in and out of onboarding, a new features release, they're having to learn it. It's early access. They get to experience it for the first time. They're going through a risk and they get to talk to another customer that's already solved that challenge. And all of those points along their journey, there is an opportunity to layer in some sort of sparkle moment, advocacy moment, where they're either benefiting from what another customer has already accomplished, or you're able to actually give their voice a platform. I think one of the things that we found over the years in customer success is we are successful when our customers are successful. And what does that mean? When they get promoted, when they have authority, when they gain expertise in what they're doing. And one of the most effective ways that we can help them gain that authority and gain their voice is to give them a platform. And that's advocacy, right? They're using your solution, they're achieving some kind of goal, but then they're also climbing in their own career and you get to be a part of that story in some way. So I really do think of how do we create those moments? And I love the idea of like, they can't always be one-off, right? You do have to provide some kind of a structure for your teams. They understand what to reach for and what the expected action is. One of the more recent conversations that I've been having with my implementation team, and by the way, for us in our organization, we goal every customer success manager and implementation consultant. There is an advocacy component within their goal set of like what we expect them to do at a base level. And so for implementation, it's been a little bit harder. How do you get somebody in an onboarding part of their journey to talk about what that experience has been? So somebody came up with the idea of like social kits. Let's give them, when they launch, let's give them everything that they need to celebrate every member of their team that helped them get to where they are today and implement that solution and hopefully improve all of their lives at the same time, and do that on LinkedIn, which is a public forum, which is then going to share that advocacy and awareness. So really just thinking again about how we can bring it together where obviously it benefits us, but we think about how it benefits them even more.
Yeah, love that. Love that idea of, it really is so journey oriented. It's like if many of us came from the more community-esque type of advocacy programs, and you're kind of a self-serve model, like pick your adventure, what's available that I could do, et cetera. And I think this idea behind lifecycle advocacy is a bit more prescriptive. We are saying, here you are on your journey. Here is a perfect type of engagement and opportunity that this makes sense, whether that's getting that help from the customer or whether that is putting the right type of opportunity in front of them that makes sense for where they are in their journey with your organization. Brittany, sorry.
Sorry, yeah. Nicole asked a question, and so I just want to be able to answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since it's relevant. So we don't shout out our customers. Sometimes sales will do that, but it's always really tricky because you have to read the contract. Be allowed to publicly reference them. I don't want to get my team into any sticky situations of mentioning a customer that they're not allowed to publicly mention. And so what we try to do is equip our customers to do the advocacy for us, because that's really authentic anyway, right? If they have a great experience, we want them to share it. And if they don't, we want them to tell us about it. And I'm not going to post this, and here's why. And so it's more about giving them what they need to, again, have that platform.
But as soon as they finish onboarding, you give them like the tools to say, hey, we, like a post that's like, we just finished onboarding with, okay.
Yeah, we're working on it, right? And we want to make it fun and cheeky, right? We serve the MarTech industry. We're a creative operations platform, content operations platform. And so we work with really fun brands, really fun customers with a sense of humor. And so giving them something that fits their, mentality, and it's hard work to implement the processes that we help them do, but then giving them a chance to shout that out and share that with their teammates that also did the work alongside them. It can feel good for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
That's great, Brittany. Love that. I love little tactical tips. I'm sure there's like 5 people writing that idea down right now. And I love putting the power in their hands, the opportunity for them to pick up that moment of advocacy or that advocacy activity, and it's both to promote themselves and the organization. And so it's a perfect blend. Brooke, I wanted to make sure we get to you on this question too, as far as defining like what it means from you. And you sit in lifecycle marketing, so you're already thinking about the journey all the time. Adding in that element of advocacy, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, it's hard to follow. There's been a lot of great insight here, and I feel like I'm trying to think, what is something different I could say that we do at AlphaSense. But I think too, beyond just thinking of the journey, and yes, it's cyclical, but typically we think kind of advocacy later on in the journey because we want them to get comfortable. They need to start using our product. They need to interact with our support teams and people to really understand and know when is the right time to ask them to advocate externally or advocate internally within their organization. So something that came to mind for us is like thinking about lifecycle programs is just being super data driven with looking internally at how our customers are using our product and understanding what are healthy indicators that one, they're advanced users, they're power users, or maybe they're struggling, and thinking beyond just the milestones and date stamps of like where they are in their journey, but also how they're using the tools that we're providing them to know, okay, this person's advancing very quickly, and maybe this is an opportune time to introduce advocacy or the opportunity to participate in a session or participate in EAP early access programs or provide feedback. So I think flipping it too, and I know this can be hard to do, is pulling data from many different places, but being able to tell a story and also
no problem,
understand
Brooke. No problem. Everyone can
it's a
do
work in progress at all times. But I think turning that a little bit against just what are our results, but also how can we use the data to make smarter decisions on when to potentially weave that message in, knowing how engaged they are with our tools.
I think Brooke brings up a really important point there, and that is where in that journey are you plotting advocacy to sort of happen or begin or be nurtured, whatever. And that really comes back to your goals, which comes back to your strategy. So some organizations, they're going to have goals around advocacy that are more related to product and product expertise, really being able to tell a great product story, or helping with support deflection, or whatever the use case is for advocacy. So then you have to find that life cycle is about finding the right customer at the right time for the right opportunity, and then looking for what data you have, what signals can you find that tell you that person is right for that opportunity. So if it's more product related and expertise related, yeah, for sure, it's going to be a bit farther on into the journey. But if you have some goals that allow you to tap those people earlier, so maybe as they're going into or like fresh out of the sale, that is an opportune moment for advocacy for some goals, for some use cases, or someone coming out of onboarding. Like it's looking at that journey and understanding what is it that you're trying to accomplish. Because just like with customer advocacy, with life cycle advocacy, there's no shortage of things that you can do. Like the journey, the customer journey, the advocacy journey, it's complex. There are so many opportune moments within that journey. Which are the ones that you're going to focus in on and why that moment, why that customer, why that ask or activation.
Mm-hmm. I do love that point, because I think it's part of what makes life cycle advocacy so interesting but difficult, right? There's a whole journey. There's lots of different things you could be helping these people do at a certain time or asking them to do. What are the signals? What's the data set, Brooke? We're not going to get away from data. So that's like, let's talk about that in the challenges section, the opportunity and challenges section. But, asking someone to talk to their experience after a sales cycle or after an implementation can be a really wonderful set of testimonials or data that can be used to promote certain different aspects of, is it easy to work with this company? Do we love their team? Like, oh, I don't know yet what the results of this implementation will be, but man, that team is just the friendliest, the nicest, the best. So figuring out what can customers speak to at that part of the journey, and then opening the door for the opposite, because lifecycle advocacy can be the opposite, which is opening the door for them to tell us, as Brittany said, hey, that was pretty awful. And then what are we going to do about that? What orchestration do we have in place? And I think we are speaking to orchestration, right? There is this element of looking at these different moments and designing what should happen. What are we tapping into? What are the signals that we're listening to, whether it's data, whether it's a checkbox in Salesforce, implementation is complete, whether it's, oh, we're 3 months before renewal. There are data points to look at, then deciding what should the experience be at that moment and what's the opportunity both for the organization and for that client. And that's kind of hard work. And so when I talk to people who are doing lifecycle advocacy, I always say, man, it's the frontier. It feels kind of like the new frontier. And there's some real like hoeing down the grass and building the path to get to where exactly is this going and how do we build from this point on. I want to get to some real examples, and Brittany already threw one out there for us, a nice tasty morsel. I do want to get to some more examples that you guys may have included in your applications about, okay, what are some lifecycle advocacy designing or creation? It could be automation, it could be manual, a playbook, whatever it might be that you feel have been impactful for your organization. So I'll just, whichever one of you wants to be brave and jump in here.
I'll go.
Thanks, Brooke.
So I would say that our lifecycle team is pretty new and fresh. So there's been a lot of innovative things that we've been trying to accomplish this year with just really breaking down our stages. Obviously, starting at onboarding as we think about the first critical stage of a new user or new account coming in and really making sure that experience is the best that it can be. But breaking it down by that digital versus human interaction and touch point. So ahead of us re-evaluating and reinvigorating what that looks like, we did send out a survey just because we haven't really surveyed our users beyond just some general product surveys and different things, but to better understand what the onboarding experience was to them and how it felt, how it landed with just knowing the product. Did they have the right education and the right support they needed? And from there, we had a really great response rate. But through that as well, we were also able to capture people that were just so happy with the product, happy with our brand, happy with the teams that helped them get to where they were. So that was sort of a light bulb moment of being like, how do we, to your point earlier of like identifying the milestones, identifying kind of those key points where we could start asking for advocacy or start asking to participate and join a premier group of users, even if they are that early in their relationship with our brand, because they bring a different perspective that maybe somebody that has been here for 5 or 6 years, and more tenured, but they have fresh eyes as to what AlphaSense brings to them. So being able to find those key points, but the survey was one data point of information to help us really tune in what our onboarding digital experience needs to be, from email to in-app, but also how we think about advocacy playing a role in that, and then using advocacy materials to really drive and hone in on the message to ensure our users were getting the education and materials they needed to get started and start seeing value faster.
Yeah, love that. Thanks, Brooke.
So I'll just piggyback on that one. And honestly, like this is the topic for me, so I could go dive deep. So just pull me back as you need to. I've got lots of different things that we've tried at Litho, some that have been effective, some not so much. I think voice of the customer is incredible. Like the survey moments that you create. For example, we have NPS that goes automatically out to our customers. And if they give us a promoter score, then it's an ask to go review us on G2. And that's like a really simple automated, kind of motion that you can set up really easily, depending on what solution you're using for NPS. There's lots of ways to do it. Sometimes we find that's not as effective. People can sense that's more of an automated, like, yeah, you like us, now give us a review. And so, that hasn't been like the most effective way for us to get the G2 reviews or things that we're looking for. But
hey, Brittany, can I just ask a really practical question for the audience right there? Because that is like, a very easy, accessible example of life cycle advocacy. How long do you wait from the NPS being given to asking them for the review? Is it instant, or is there like a further out journey, a pause?
Yeah, it's typically it would take like an overnight sync for our systems to bring in that information and then send out the automated email. I do have a philosophy of every time we ask our customers for feedback, I want us to close the loop in some way. And so we want to make sure that we're responding to them in the way that makes sense. So if it's a positive NPS, that's going to be an automated, like, let's go ahead and ask. Maybe for some of our more enterprise customers, we're going to take a little bit more time to put together that email or read the response and make sure we're crafting it in a way, but we're always going to go back. It obviously in more of the passive or, detractor types of responses, then we're going to put more human effort towards, okay, there might be a little bit of a risk here. And I'm a firm believer that every time someone does fill out that survey, that they're opening the door to you. They want to interact and engage with you in some way. And so take that as a signal of ways that you can then lean in and figure out, okay, how do we best approach this scenario or what they're telling us? So Brooke, I thought that was a great example, especially coming from onboarding. We're big into measuring effort, like what is the customer effort score at Litho, and understanding, if you ever read Matt Dixon's The Effortless Experience, which is one of my Bibles, really understanding how do we reduce those friction points to get you using the application and be successful in that. Another thing that I would suggest, and this also, we're spending a lot of time in onboarding, but I do think that sets, a lot of what you're doing up for success, is really thinking about what that onboarding, how are you capturing the challenges of why they purchased your solution, and then showcasing then how you prove the results of what they're getting after the fact. So, partnering with your customer success leadership, if I'm assuming I'm the only CS person on this call, it may be a false assumption, but partnering with that leadership to really make sure that you guys are crystal clear on how do you make the case study actually write itself, because that's what the customer should be getting. They should be getting the results from your solution that would be worth broadcasting and would be worth getting excited about. And they're going to make them look really, really good to their boss so that you do get that renewal. So thinking about it from that approach of like, what's my perfect case study look like? And how do I get the information that I would need from a base level at the very beginning of the journey, and then back into, maybe that's 6 months post-implementation, maybe that's 3 months ahead of renewal, whatever that timeline makes sense, to then compare the results of where they are then versus where they started. And it doesn't matter if they do agree to a case study or not, the success team is going to get that win. And then a lot of times you're going to get that win as a marketing team as well. So that's another thing that I would add.
I have just another quick question for you, Brittany, just to piggyback on the example you shared about the NPS, always closing the loop, coming out with that next ask for the review. Are you connecting those two actions for the customer, or is the review ask coming out just kind of as decoupled from the NPS action?
We do refer back to the survey because, again, I want to make sure the customer understands, like, we read every result. It matters. We're so thankful they took the time to take that survey, and we're so glad that we want them to share their experience with others. So we do refer back to make sure. Sometimes they don't remember, especially if it's an app, they'll be like, oh, I just clicked a number. Or, it's just trying to swat it out of the way. Or sometimes we hear things like that. But I do want to make sure we go through and fulfill that closed loop philosophy. But that does play in, that score, right, for NPS plays into health, kind of back to what Brooke mentioned.
Yeah.
And then that plays in, overall, who are our healthiest customers, who are our most engaged customers. And that's going to be one of the indicators that we use when we are looking for that perfect advocate for a particular use case.
For sure. Nicole, I feel like you're ready to go.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely the voice of the customer program is a super important aspect of what we do in capturing that customer sentiment. We work really closely with the customer success team to go through each and every survey to make sure, we're looking to see what customers are saying, why they're saying it, especially if they are recently out of onboarding. I think from there, what's a really important thing is that we stay closely aligned with customer success to make sure that they are doing their quarterly business reviews, and that those are happening for like a risk mitigation type approach, and then also just to keep sharing value. We always capture goals at the beginning of any customer's experience to see if they're actually achieving the value that they desired with our products. So over time, I think that's a super important piece, and just to stay abreast of how those quarterly business reviews are going, who's making progress also for us, so we know who we might be wanting to capture for stories. I think the thing I wanted to mention, because there's so many things that you do across this journey, but I sort of think of this is for a few different phases in the journey. We do a client town hall, and we do this usually twice a year in the fall and the spring. We have clients submit their questions ahead of time, and then we identify what topics are most important to them, and we make the virtual client town hall focused on those topics. Of course, we'll pepper in some of the things that we want to be sure they walk away with knowing too. But I've gotten really great feedback from clients on this, knowing that they can depend on it, feeling like they're an insider and that they have stake. We're not just a business that's, their vendor partner, but really we're wanting to partner with them so that they understand our roadmap, they understand what kind of things are happening in our company, why we're thinking the way we're thinking. And I think that's a really important part of the journey for our customers. We also have our own conference. We have an annual conference where we bring customers. We just finished this week was the conference. So it's for us, it was 250 customers, but it's a decent size event for just one vendor's, a smaller company's people. And it's such an incredible opportunity to share so much information and the networking opportunities for those customers, but to be a fly on the wall, and a lot of them to capture what they're talking about, why they're thinking about it the way they're thinking about it, and what really makes them light up is huge. I mean, I've got so much to do following that. So I feel like those real face-to-face experiences with your customers are it's a super important part of customer lifecycle advocacy. And I would say it's why we've been able to do it pretty well where I'm at, just because we have built in those face-to-face experiences, even if the customer town hall is virtual, but we have some regional summits as well.
Absolutely. Dina, did you want to add to that? You look like you're about.
No, Nicole talking about the in-person aspect. Like when we think about lifecycle advocacy, we do kind of think of like automated or semi-automated and like driven by tools, etc. But there definitely is an in real life component to the life cycle. And so I'll just share a quick anecdote of why it's important. And it's a real story of what happened to Liz and I around this time last year, end of November last year. We had sponsored a fairly large event in London. And Liz and I were also keynote speakers at this event. And, transparently, we had spent a lot of money to be there, not just on the sponsorship, but also, bringing the team to a different country. And when we went to check in for the event, and this is where that customer journey and then the advocacy journey the importance of having those combined come into play when we came into the event hall to check into the event. So this is now our first in real life touch point with this event organization, with the event itself. When I went up to register, they didn't know who I was. They, I think, had my name spelt wrong, title wrong. They had no idea that I was a sponsor or a keynote speaker. It was just kind of wham bam, thank you, ma'am, here you go. Liz had like a slightly better experience at her check-in, but still not great. And that was our first kind of like, you don't have a second chance to make a first impression. That was our first like, ooh, whoa, wait a second. Like, I'm not just some rando that came in off the street. I'm paying to help this event happen today. I'm a keynote speaker here. You guys courted me and wooed me virtually for months to get me here. And now I'm here and I just feel like, oh, well, that even if I was just a regular person attending the event, it would have been a bad experience. But when you layer on that, really, you would have put me in the category of advocate. It was a real lunch bag letdown. So that in real life piece is super important. That's really, in my experience, like that's where you supercharge advocacy, is it in any sort of face. Liz?
I love that example, Dina, because I think it just ties it all together. And sometimes I don't think, because it's hard to do at scale, right? I mean, it's hard to, okay, here's a list of people, make sure that you greet them all appropriately. But there are ways to use data and automation in such a way to help us. Someone was saying, I think, Nicole, when your definition is about this irrelevancy, right? Like we can't expect them. We are in charge of that experience. And we can't force them to interact with us a certain way. We have to be ready and meet them where they are at in the channels where they are living. And so when we think about that experience, there's been so many advocates as part of programs. They've done massive things for your organization, but the person checking those people in, they don't necessarily know that. They're not in tune to that necessarily unless your team has put processes in place to make sure that that data is readily available and that there's a playbook for how to interact with those people. Here's a very, very easy example from my previous job. We had a customer council and I said, okay, I want everybody, when they're part of this 6-month customer council, I don't want them to just be greeted like everybody else. Like I want them, when they interact with our team, to have a slightly different experience. And so the thing that we decided to do, I went to the support person and I said, hey, when they come and do a support interaction, I just want something to their first interaction to be an acknowledgement that they are collaborating with us to make our organization better. And so we just worked on a canned script. He marked everyone inside of the system who was part of that council. And so that point forward, the support reps would know that they could just take this canned script, add it to the front of any email exchange. And then that is that alignment between, hey, here's my advocacy journey, here's my customer journey, and I'm bringing those two things together. And I think that's just so key. There's so much more we could be doing with events. I know we do like the special area for the advocates and all this, but there is more we could be doing. Okay, so I want to pause because we only have 15 more minutes. It's going so fast. So I do want to actually pause and open it up to all our listeners who have, and feel free if you want to turn your camera on, or if you don't, no problem. I know that Todd has been busy texting over here in the chat. We really appreciate that. So thanks for that. But any examples you have from your own organization of how you have been thinking about Lifecycle and bringing that alignment of the advocacy journey and the customer journey together? Or any questions also that you have on this topic? Maybe it's brand new and you haven't even really thought about it. We would love to hear from you. So let me just open that up right now to the audience.
Hi, Liz. Hey, Dina. How you doing?
Drew.
Hi. This is a topic that I feel like I think about all the time, right? And so I had this whole idea in my head around I grew up with the DNM, the Discover, Nurture, Mobilize, right, approach to advocacy. And I know Liz, Dina, you were like instrumental in like building out that, that methodology. So it's still working for me. But I was thinking about like, customers are sending signals, right, all the time. And it's sort of incumbent upon us to interpret those signals. And the signals can be things like NPS, right, reviews, did the customer attend the conference, looking at usage data, right? So like, are they logging into the product? Are they, how frequently, right? Like what areas of the product are they using? And then, certification and education, like, did they take the initiative to like get certified on the product? And then is there, over the course of their customer journey, like, are they expanding, right? So these are all like signals that I'm interpreting as like, they're having a good experience, right, with our product. And so, those are areas where I would, put them into the discover bucket, right? And then once we recruit them and we nurture them and we find opportunities to help them like get better at using the product. But also I was thinking about like, what's something that I can offer to customers or to advocates? Like, it's great that they want to do these things to help promote their personal brand and gain more visibility and recognition for their, thought leadership and that sort of thing. But like, I was talking to somebody recently and I'm like, what if I offered you an opportunity? Like, I brought in somebody who could help you optimize your LinkedIn profile, right? Somebody who could like help you maybe be a better public speaker, right? So like, trying to give back to folks and not just recognize them for doing the thing that I wanted them to do, right? Yes, surprise and delight is wonderful, and everybody, it's like, oh, you sent me something, that's really nice. So then, yeah, and then, I feel like you become more sticky as an advocate too, if I'm like offering you real, benefit. But my thing is like, once you reach this certain level of advocacy with a customer, like, then what? It's like, okay, so, do I offer you a seat on the cab? The product advisory board? Like, what more? It's that final layer that I'm always like, what do I do next?
I love what you've just laid out there, Andrew. Like, for me, it's always been like hella murky when we say, oh, and we offer you opportunities to grow your personal brand, because, well, really though, like the big benefit there is to us because you're sharing your story about us. So it's kind of been like, yeah, I mean, we can put some smoke and mirrors on that one, but to really help someone build their brand, like you nailed it. Like, give me some public speaker training, like help me with my image, help me to look better on camera, give me some sort of training on like some kind of coaching, like career coaching. But those are the more difficult gives, because then our organizations say, yeah, but like, what's the get? What's the get for that? Well, we're helping them actually to build their brand. But I like expanding out that definition, because, like, let's face it, most people use that one in their customer advocacy practices. Let's like normalize expanding that definition, that building your brand isn't just about sharing your story about how great my product is. It's about us really helping you. If that is a journey that you're on, let us help you to be the best person in that arena that you can be.
Oh, I love that Jennifer is just nodding her head away, and she obviously has something to say. What do you want to add to that, Jennifer? You don't want to add anything?
No, but I really resonate with everything you're both saying, because it's very murky, and it's always challenging. And also, I have worked in an organization where we did offer a lot of that to help individuals with their personal branding and giving them some coaching and whatnot. But then I went to other organizations and pitched this, and it completely fell on deaf ears. They thought it was crazy and too much of an investment, and why would we do that? And we dialed right back into being very self-serving. So, it's great if you can sell it. So I guess that would be the only question I would throw out: how to convince leadership that this experiential support is really something we should invest in and take the time to do.
We've
Yeah,
things like tickets to conferences that might, maybe we're sponsoring ad and they can be, there's always a connection. I think in some ways there is a personal relationship that you have with the customer, but you have to understand like they're your customer and they're with you because of, there is a transactional layer underneath the entire advocacy experience. And I don't know if that needs to feel dirty or weird, right? Like they're a great user of your product. And so how can you continue to connect them? Maybe it's a one-on-one with your CEO, right? Depending on how flat you are. Maybe it's an invitation to a special dinner that you're having ahead of your customer conference where they get to mingle with an elite, group of other customers that are in the inner echelons. We've also done more personalized gifts. Like we had one advocate for us that loved to golf. And so we ordered him some golf balls with our logo on it. And it is about us. Yeah, of course it's about us, but it's about them and something that's going to put a smile on their face and then help them, feel a little bit of that love as well. So I don't know that we have to feel too dirty about it or, obviously you want to make it programmatic and scalable, but also think specifically about them and their personality as much as you can. And I love the idea in the chat about connect with the customer success manager because they know they have that relationship.
Yeah. I mean, in my space, a lot of times people can't accept gifts because they are in higher education. We work with administrators in higher ed. And so, of course, sometimes we will do donations to their school's food pantry, which I think is great. That seems to work really well. But, I got to think, when I can advocate for someone, like in the old days when Influitive was, a different company, when I can be supportive, I'm doing it because I am having a great experience with the product. And if I'm not, and I want to help other people, like the people on this call, also shine and have a great experience with the product. So I think what I want more than anything is a heartfelt thank you that does not get missed, that's timely, that's genuine. And I want to hear you did a great job. And we just are so deeply appreciative for our partnership. That's what I want more than anything. And I feel like, of course, we have a cab that does a lot of stuff for us. I like that. A handwritten is really great. We have a cab that does a lot of stuff for us, and we definitely give them like cool swag and, great, little perks and things like that. But mostly I think they do a lot of webinars and stuff for us too. Mostly I think what it boils down to is being genuine and thanking them for, authentically for their vision and their passion for what they're doing.
To Andrew's point, I do want to address this very important factor that we don't talk about very much is once an advocate in their lifetime with you has kind of done everything you've asked them to do. They've done the story, they've done the reference calls, they've given you as many referrals as they can give. Sometimes it does seem to feel like they're put a little out to pasture. Isn't that such a terrible, but it does happen. I had someone come up to me at a conference one time and they were just kind of like, what gives? I used to come to this conference and I felt like I knew everybody and everyone was high-fiving me and I just feel like I don't really even know anyone anymore. So I do think what Andrew's saying, that's an important question, is it's very important to make sure that when you've had that long relationship with a very superb advocate that you are thinking about from that point on, even when you've gotten every story you can out of them, that there is a plan for how that person is treated in the long run. And I don't think we've really spent a lot of time on that.
It's a really good point.
We don't. What happens when you get to the end of your playbook? All of the plays have been played, then what?
Yeah. We have 4 minutes. I promised we would talk about data. So both Brooks mentioned it, Andrew's mentioned it, and I think it's the new world, right? It is this big black box that's been opened up to us in the last even 5 years where we didn't used to have data point access that we now do. It is confusing and difficult for customer marketers who are not used to being given all this information. So we talk about discover, nurture, mobilize. That discover piece is now massive. I could be looking at 100 different data points on my customer. I no longer have to just send a survey, although those are still great for some really personalized interactions, but I do have a lot of data points across their whole organization now of discovery. So I want to talk, Brooke, to you a bit about, you mentioned like, oh, data. What's your approach for the fear and the opportunity with data?
Yeah, no, it's a big question, that's for sure. And I feel like most of my career has been focused on data for segmenting your audience and lists and getting emails out to the right audience, and then looking at data after the fact of a campaign to say what was success, but being more predictive in the way that we look at our user behaviors. And we're doing a lot of telemetry analysis, which is a big word outside of marketing, but being able to really understand our users in and out, but looking at it from a standpoint of like 30 days before we sent this engagement versus 30 days after. How are they engaging with our product? Did it make an impact? Because I think it's really hard to see behind that curtain of what our programs are really doing to drive more usage and drive better engagements. And also, did it really tick the box of educating and getting them more familiar with what it was that we wanted them to act on? So being able to take those specifics and being able to couple it with other outside indicators of product usage, but also an NPS response or a survey feedback, or maybe there's other health indicators that the CS team, customer success, is collecting that we can utilize to try to identify that. So we're still in the early stages of this, but being able to really partner with our BI team and understand our product analytics, but also then putting that in a data warehouse where now we can pull whatever those levers are and whatever those milestones are to understand our data, to say, this is exactly what we want to feed into this engagement, or this is what we want to trigger this activity. So we're really early stage, as I mentioned, but I think being able to have that data at our hands is an amazing win. And knowing that so much data is there can be daunting, but being able to at least start somewhere, and identify that this is what we have at this point. So let's see how these healthy behaviors can help us understand our users better.
Love that. Yeah. Nicole, no apologies necessary. We are right at the top of the hour. That was a great discussion. Thank you everyone for joining us. Follow, if you aren't connected to Nicole or Brooke or Brittany, please connect Dina and myself and Mary as well. Mary, you want to wrap us?
Sure. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for Captivate, Liz and Dina and Brooke and everyone that came. And thank you for coming. Yeah, we have another call in a couple of weeks and we will see you then. Have a great weekend.
All right.
Bye, everyone. Enjoy your
Bye,
weekend.
everyone.
And if you're in Boston next week, come and say hello to us.